The Greater Centerville Historians organized in the year 2000. The purpose of the organization is to preserve the history of the Township of Centerville, Cleveland and surrounding area. Gerald O'Neill, Charlie Bauer, Richard Wiegand, and myself, Kathleen Sixel, were the founding members. In 1831, the territory south of Green Bay was sold to the U.S. government by the Native Americans who had title to the land. The consideration was the promise of a reservation in another state. The Township of Centerville was established in 1850. The township had a village called Centerville. The reason for the hamlet's original name of Centerville was, in the days of the Indians, there was a trail along Lake Michigan between Manitowoc and Sheboygan. This heavenly spot was exactly at the halfway mark, so the early white man gave it the name Centerville. In 1849, the village of Centerville was surveyed and laid out in lots and blocks. The village of Centerville was renamed Hika when the Postmaster General informed the village leaders that another Centerville was located in the state. When it became time for Centerville to be renamed, a judge in Manitowoc by the name of Albert Schmidt would take kids hiking. The judge said, "You can't call a town hiking, so why not make it Hika?" Thus, the village of Centerville became Hika. In the early years, Centerville had the vision of becoming a lake port. To encourage ships to dock there, 2 piers were built into Lake Michigan. Many German immigrants arrived by schooners, and the village began to grow. The village had a brick factory, stores, schools, a Lutheran and a Catholic church, mills, saloons, blacksmith shop, and a fire department, and a brewery. When the brewery was built, the settlement began to flourish. But when fire destroyed the brewery, the largest industry, there was no longer a need for the harbor facilities. So ended this chapter of the development of Hika. 2 miles west of Hika, another settlement known as St. Wendel began to grow. It had a Catholic church, a general store with a connected dance hall, and a post office was also located in the complex, a funeral parlor, and at one time a motel. With the clearing of the forest, tilling of the land began. This prompted the exporting of lumber and grains. The farmers of Centerville looked forward to the building of a railway since they had a serious problem transporting their products. In 1873, the Milwaukee, Lakeshore, and Western Railroad was built between the settlements of Hika and St. Wendel and was named Centerville Station. In 1880, Centerville Station was renamed Cleveland after President Grover Cleveland. Cleveland, at that point in time, owes its growth to the fact that the Township of Centerville was a rich farming community, and farmers from miles around would bring products to be shipped by rail or ship. The village of Cleveland had several grocery stores, a furniture store, a funeral parlor, several saloons, Lutheran church, hardware stores, several gas stations, newspaper, photographer studio, several car dealerships, cheese factory, several feed mills, livestock yard, and lumber yards. The biggest business was the Cleveland Co-op, which offered many types of services. With the failing of grain crops, the farmers began dairy farming. With the abundance of milk, another industry began, cheese and butter making. Local cheese factories dotted the countryside. One-room schools were usually built near the cheese factories, so children would have a ride to school when farmers brought their milk. In 1958, Hika, St. Wendel, and Cleveland incorporated into the village of Cleveland. In 1968, the Cleveland Elementary School was built. The Township of Centerville has seen many farming changes, but dairy farming is still the primary vocation. Today, Cleveland is known as the seat of Lakeshore Technical College, which offers an educational alternative to 4-year colleges. An ancient proverb states, When an old person dies, a library burns to the ground. These words were the inspiration for organizing the Greater Centerville Historians. We hope to preserve as many memories as possible.
A location that we didn't anticipate, and Kathy will give us some information what happened this evening.
It is May 10th, 2004, and it is about approximately 5:25. And this evening we're meeting at LTC. We were going to have a walk up Washington Street, but we have rainy weather. Matter of fact, Saturday night it rained about 4 inches, so it is very wet outside. We ask that Richard can tell us about the rules. Oh, and this evening we are going to continue with a film. We're going to watch a little clip of a film, and we're going to continue from a previous meeting. There was a question came up by Marie Pippard.
Okay, very good. And you, sir?
Richard Wiegand, and I'm going to read you the rules.
Okay.
Please raise your hand when you have information to add, and Mr. O'Neill will address you and move his camera so that we do not miss any information you wish to share. Number 2, always state your full name. Number 3, try to use full names when referring to people. Refrain from using nicknames. 4, please do not visit when someone else is speaking. The background noise is quite noticeable on the video. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll have the introductions, if you don't mind. You want to do it one more time of your introduction now? And maybe something pertaining to Mother's Day. Did you do something for Mother's Day?
You caught me.
I caught you. Okay.
Richard Wiegand, I called home on Mother's Day. I was in Madison, where I usually hang out. And
okay.
I called home.
Very good. You're a good son. Very good. And Kathy?
My name is Kathy Sixel, and I spent Mother's Day at Carroll College. My grandson Ivan Stefan graduated, and he was the boy that came from the Ukraine, so I was quite pleased.
Okay.
And we were just real happy because we got the call on Mother's Day, or my daughter did, that she could adopt this boy, and that would have been 13 years ago.
Really? Wonderful. Good news. Thank you. Who would like to introduce himself? Go right ahead, please.
I'm Walter Kress, and for Mother's Day, our son took us to Elmira for dinner.
Wow, great, great. Had a nice dinner, I presume?
Nice dinner at the EFW Club.
Okay.
Legion Club.
Legion Club. Okay, very good. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Florence Kress. I did the same thing.
Okay.
With Florian and his family. The
Okay.
children are all together.
Did husband, did he come along with a card or anything for you at all? Oh, you know.
Don't expect it.
You don't expect that. Okay, here we go. You introduce yourself, please.
I'm Dolores Kress, and I spent Saturday with my daughter,
Okay,
and Sunday I spent with my godchild,
good,
Lois Meyer,
good.
and that was about it.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much. And who do you have here, please?
Charlie Bauer, and we took the mother-in-law to church on Sunday morning and out for breakfast, and then we went by my mom for dinner. So we had a whole day of eating and visiting.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Charlie. And who do you have here, please?
Dorothy Anderson. My daughters live out of town, way up out of town, but I spent the day with my sister, Marion, the handicapped one.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank you. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Edith Lutzy, and Richard and his family took me out for dinner, and Janet came, and later on they came by me and we played dominoes.
Okay, very good. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Willard Matthias. Mother's Day we worked all day up at the cottage
Okay.
and clipped my lawn, but we did go out on Saturday night for supper,
Okay.
so that was our Mother's Day.
Okay. Well, I'm going to inquire about a little thing on your face there. Does that involve Mother's Day too?
That's when you don't send a card.
Very good, thank you. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Alice Matthias,
I went along with supper with him, but
Oh,
he
okay.
went to church with me on Saturday evening.
Okay.
And then we went to Lena at the Bavarian Inn. We
Oh.
were there at 20 after 5.
Yeah.
The place was so packed, you wouldn't believe it. We wondered what the people would do that came at 6 o'clock.
Oh, my
And we
God.
ended up going to Kelly Lake.
Okay.
So it was a nice Mother's Day. We had a call from our son on Mother's Day,
Good.
and he gave me his present
Okay.
for Mother's Day, and you would never believe what it is. It's an air conditioner.
Wow.
I said I didn't need an air conditioner with a hole in my head, but
Very good. Sounds like a wonderful day.
okay.
And who do you have here, please?
I'm Marie Pippard, and my son, they wanted to go to city streets, but I had been there on Wednesday, and it was terrible, so I said, heck no. And the other one worked all day, so I stayed home and I made tomato soup with croutons in.
Thank you, Marie. And you, ma'am?
I'm Irene Dine. My daughter came with my 3 granddogs, and we spent the day.
Okay, very good. Well, my name is Jerry O'Neill, the videographer, and I spent Mother's Day on Saturday with my mother and on Sunday with my mother-in-law, so we covered everything too. So again, I guess I'll get back to Kathy or Richard, whoever wants to indicate what we're going to be doing next here.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why would Wally and Willard send their wife a Mother's Day card? It's not their mother, it's their wife.
A wife?
It's their wife. You know?
That's a good question, Kathy.
I don't know, is this a custom?
The mother of their children.
Yeah? I guess.
Children, but it's not his mother, it's his wife.
Yeah. Very good question, Kathy.
Yeah, anybody has the answer, I don't know. And also another thing, on a cemetery, you wear white flowers if your mother is alive, red flowers if your mother is dead. Is that a custom too? I mean, how many of you practice that custom?
Never heard of it.
A corsage, you know what you...
Where, to go anywhere?
To go anywhere, but it's the color. White is if your mother's alive and red if your mother is dead. Did anybody else ever hear that? That's another Mother's Day custom. Alice has a question?
Okay, I'll be right there.
That's Matthias.
Hi, Alice.
And with the card deal on Mother's Day, there are Happy Mother's Day to my wife
Oh,
on Mother's Day.
oh, really?
Yeah,
See, I
there are
didn't know.
such cards. To my wife
To my
on
wife?
Mother's Day.
Yes,
Yeah, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah.
Right.
that's right, that's right.
And
Very-
that red and white business, I remember hearing that years back when people wore more corsages and things. That was a
custom.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
A videotape of the Hetzel farm, and we've made a pause in the film at this point, and Edith would like to identify herself and indicate she has some questions. Go right ahead.
My name is Edith Lutze, and I was just wondering why they stressed that this was the first white man that was murdered. Were there some black people or Indians or what murdered before that? Nobody ever mentioned anything about that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. On the floor, and this gentleman will identify himself.
Richard Wiegand, I think when we get to reading part of the story here, we'll see how they worded it, you know, if it was recorded or that they knew about or what. But obviously, you know, there were Native American murders that would have occurred throughout history before, and maybe they even knew of some Native Americans that were killed since the white men arrived. I mean, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Certainly, the Native American population that was here was either shoved out or you know, some of them might have been murdered and some of them died of disease and that kind of thing. So
Okay,
that was going on there.
very good. Thank you. The lady here would like to say a few words. She'll identify herself, please.
I'm Marie Pippard. I remember being in that house one time. I took my mother and our neighbor, Mrs. Robert Vogel, was a cousin to the Hetzels, and I took them there to visit. But I just took them there and was just in the kitchen part.
Okay.
And then I went and got them again. But you could ask, I think, if I am not mistaken, that's Vernon Gruby's mother's place.
Yeah,
So why don't you ask Vernon Gruby once? Maybe they would know something.
And I'll send these photos around.
It was
And
Mabel?
that's where I got that
Oh,
for the postcard.
yeah, Mabel Hetzel married Gruby,
Okay.
and she had a brother that, what was his name?
What was the
Gilbert?
name of the groovy that she married? Would you happen to know that?
Herbert. Herbert.
Herbert Groovy.
Yeah.
Ruby.
That was Mabel Hetzel. And she
Okay.
had a brother, and afterwards he had, I don't know how it happened, but he had a hook on the one hand,
Okay.
and a sister, Alma Hetzel. Those three.
Okay. Could you name those three one more time?
Alma Hetzel, they were both, she was an old maid, and he was never married either, Gilbert.
Okay.
Only Mabel was married to Ruby.
All
But
right.
maybe the Groobies would know something
Okay.
about the house.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Marie.
Okay.
Say a few words. Go right ahead.
I'm Alice Mathias. I was just wondering, I have in the back of my head that when LTC opened here, that would have been possibly like around in 1975 or 76,
Okay.
that there was a Jerry Field that was like the maintenance man, and I had the impression that he lived in that house at that point.
That could be.
Okay. A
Anybody
field.
else know that was that the same house? There was not a house torn down since
No.
then, right?
Okay.
And I can't imagine that that was in such bad shape because, well, 75, that is almost 30 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if anybody else recalls that
Somebody
he lived
did
there.
live there.
Thank you. We've viewed the tape, and there's some questions coming about. Go right ahead, please.
Richard Wiegand, I came back from Africa in 1974, and I think Lakeshore Tech was there in 74, but I haven't heard anything about a 30th anniversary or something, I mean, so I'm not sure. Several things, Clarence and Vernon Groupie's mother was Hetzel, and she was born there, and that was the one that was married. And the two, I think, that are on the photo were brother and sister, Gilbert and Alma, which is what my dad also said. I also mentioned
Okay,
to Kathy.
May I interrupt,
Yeah.
Richard, on that photo? Would you happen to have that so we could
Yeah.
take a look, please?
On the
Okay.
top is a picture of the farm, an aerial photo of the farm,
Could you give us some directions there, please?
right here.
And what?
And the driveway is coming in from XX or North Avenue.
Okay.
So it's kind of looking toward the north. I mean, it's on an angle here, but it's
Yeah.
looking toward the north.
And the house that we were.
The house that was on the film here that that was being talked about is here, which is the building that currently exists.
Okay, let me pan down a minute.
And that's the house that's here.
Okay.
And then this is Gilbert and Alma Hetzel,
Okay.
I presume in their house, back when, in the 50s sometime? Yeah, maybe earlier.
Okay.
And they were brother and sister. They did not marry. They just lived there.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Out here, yeah.
And here would want to say a few words. If you identify yourself, please.
I'm Walter Kress, and they talk about Gilbert Hetzel.
Yes, sir.
If you can see on the photo here, his right hand was cut off in the feed cutter.
Oh, really?
Looks as though he's wearing a glove.
No kidding. Okay. Yes, you can see that on the photo. Okay, very good. Did you know these people personally at all?
I knew of him, but
Okay.
not personally.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Lady who can add a little more information, go right ahead, please.
I'm Florence Kress, and my dad and his family grew up just to the west of where I-43 is now. The turnoff going north is where the Leonard farm was.
Okay. And that, your dad's full name was what?
Gregor Leonard.
Gregory Leonard, okay. And they recall the people that lived there?
Oh, yes, I heard of them talk about him.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Looking at a tape, and we sort of ended it where a name was inscribed on a brick on the Hetzel building. And this gentleman has some information. Go right ahead, please.
I'm Walter Kress, and the name August Whitty had the brickyard years ago, what is now the Lakeshore Metals. There's a hollow in the back there, that's where the brickyard was. And my dad worked in it when he was small.
Oh, really? Now, where is this location one more time for the brickyard?
On Beach Street,
Okay,
just south of Beach in Washington.
okay. And go over that one more time. I might not have been listening properly there. How did that relationship work again?
August Whitt had the brickyard,
Okay,
which is now Lakeshore Metals.
okay,
And everybody in here, I think, would know Clarence Whitt was what his son was the banker for many, many years.
all right.
He
Yes.
Cleveland, and his wife just passed away a couple of months ago.
All right. Okay, very good information. Thank you. Looking at a videotape that was made about 3-4 weeks ago, and there were some comments made, and Mr. Barr would like to maybe clarify something.
Yes, I stated on the original film that the brick veneer was probably built first, and then the solid brick two-story building was built second. It's just the opposite way around.
Okay.
And once you backed up with the camera and I could see how the roof lines tied in, then I knew that the fancy two-story solid brick building was built first.
That was first.
Right, and then the other was added on.
Ah.
And that could also explain the two different kind of brick there, because they probably had salvage brick to use first and then just bought some to finish
All right.
the building out.
Okay, very good. Well, I thank you for being up front and getting that correct.
I still don't know if it was built in 1851.
Okay.
I went around and looked at the three old churches, St. Boniface and St. Mary's, and they go back to about 1885. I
Okay.
couldn't find anything back to 1851.
All right.
But it is a pretty old building that is there.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'm going to ask a question, maybe not to you at this point. I'll put it to the floor. Who's going to repute, or is that what the right word?
Refute. No, not necessarily. I'm going to add something. to
Add
this,
something. Okay, very
which may
good.
be different. Okay, Richard Wiegand. Getting to what Charlie just said. The typical homesteads that were established when people came here, they almost always started with a log house,
Okay.
which was then replaced or added to with a frame house or sometimes a brick house. I think what could have happened in the case of the Hetzel farm was there was a log house there of some sort or a frame house there before that brick house was built. And then the brick house was built, and then that other part that's attached to it
Okay.
maybe remained as a wood frame structure for some time, and then those bricks were put on later. But that may have been an older building than the brick building. This is a possibility. That the
Okay.
wood structure in the inside is older than the main brick part of the house. Now I'm going to give you some ages.
Okay.
Okay. The oldest brick house that I know of in town Centerville is the Walter Klessik brick house where Utley lives now, where Alan Klessik comes from. That's not Edward Klessik, but the original brother of August was Ferdinand Klessik.
Okay, now you mentioned the word Otley. Is there a first name for him?
What's his first name? I forget. Harry Utley lives there now. But anyway,
And
that house.
I'm going to ask one more question. Sorry, Richard. The roads. Where are we on the roads?
Okay, we're talking the southwest corner of Cleveland, or South Cleveland Road and Union Road.
Okay.
Okay, so it's southwest of the village of Cleveland.
All right, good.
Okay, that house on what I call the Walter Klessik farm dates back to around 1864. It is a Cream City brick house. It's a little darker than Cream City, but it is a brick house. Those bricks were made on the farm. There was a place where they found the clay out the lane. I know exactly where it is on the
Really?
farm. In the 1860s, they made their own bricks on the farm. The oldest building in Centerville, Cream City brick house that I know that I think had bricks from the Cleveland brickyard, from whether it was Whitty or the other one, was the Shafransky house. Gupsh, next door to us, is dates around 1875. And Shafransky is pretty sure that those bricks are from the village, are from those old brickyards. So the brickyard, I think, was going already in 1875.
Okay.
Now, if you look at Hika, across from where Dorothy lives, what used to be the inn there, those are red bricks.
The
Right.
porch is red, but the other parts.
The other part, okay, because I was wondering if they did any red bricks and then found that they had Cream City and then went back to red. My impression is the Cream City bricks are all older than the red bricks in this area.
Okay.
Even though there's plenty of red clay to go around, I think the Cream City, that yellow clay was probably, either fancier or was easier to work with or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they use for making bricks.
Could you clarify one thing? You mentioned brick yards. Was there
Well,
two of these?
we have a brick that has an imprint on it that says Centerville on it. And I think from what we had been talking about before, there were 2 brickyards.
There were. When they ran out of the clay, then they went to the next place.
Yeah, so maybe somebody else could tell where the other
Okay.
place was, because
All
we
right.
know where the Whitty one was.
The other one, but there was one south of Whitty.
South of Whitty. Okay, all right.
Okay,
Okay, let's see, what else? Oh, I wanted to make a comment about the chimneys. The typical immigrant houses that had chimneys in, you know, the frame house or the brick house, especially the frame house, the Germans always put the chimneys inside of the house. Having a chimney on the end of a house, on the outside of it, is an American adaptation or a British adaptation or something. Germans never put, in the original houses, they always had the chimneys inside of the house.
okay.
That's pretty much
Wow,
standard.
okay. Wow,
Probably
Just,
they threw it away.
thank you. Question that is going to be presented, go right ahead, please.
I'm Marie Pippard. I was just commenting about the Whittys. I remember that they moved on, what street is that? Washington and, what is that street? Beach. And they lived right on the corner. That was Cream City for a while there too. And I think Tino lived in there. Yeah, and then he built that house. And next door was Zimmerman's.
Okay, and what Zimmerman, do you know the name and first name?
Oh, that I can't remember. There was a Lily Pagload, was August Zimmerman, and there was an Esther Zimmerman, but there was another girl, I can't remember her name.
Okay,
But he remembers when they were on the farm.
okay, I'll take him to the next order here,
That
thank you.
press down there knows.
Thank you. This gentleman knows it all, go right ahead, please.
My name is Walter Kress, and you're talking about the Witt. August Witt, after he had the brickyard, had the farm on the west side of Beach Street. And my Uncle Eddie had the corner on the house, so they traded. My Uncle Eddie took the farm, and August Witt retired to the brick house
Oh.
on the east side.
Okay, okay, very good. Do you remember what time of this might have took place at all? Is there years that may be available?
Oh, in middle of the 30s, 1930s.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
And they talked about the second brickyard. Cohn had the second brickyard. It was just south of where Whitty had his.
Oh, what was the first name of Cohen?
I'm trying to remember, but I can't remember it.
Okay.
And it was on LS where that was
Oh,
located.
that would be located there.
Just south of where Witt had his brickyard.
All right. And Cohen, do you remember what the spelling was of that name?
K-O-H-N.
One more time?
K-O-H-N.
K-O-H-N. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Go right ahead, please, and introduce yourself.
Richard Wiegand, I asked my dad about my father Louis, about the Hetzel farm, and he said that across the street on the south side where that big house is that's all been fixed up now, and there's a craft shop and whatnot there, that was also a Hetzel for a period of time. I don't know if that's on the plat map or not, but he thought there was a Hetzel there. And John Ziegler's wife was a Hetzel, Bertha. Actually, she was a Hetzel on the Ziegler farm in town Mimi today, and she was a cousin to these guys somehow. Her father was Hetzel, her mother was Kolb, and she was born on the Ziegler farm. That was a Kolb farm originally, where there were like 15 kids or something in that family. And her father was a Hetzel, her mother was a Kolb, and she was a cousin to these guys on the farm here. That's what I managed to pick up.
All right, thank you. On the tape we had been viewing, a name of August Whitty came about, and Edith will give us more information. Go right ahead, please.
This is Edith. Let's see. Centerville Brick and Tile Company was originally started sometime in the 1850s, when the clay that was used in the brickyard was no longer available from an exhausted pit near the village. The brickyard was moved to Cleveland. August Whitty, a son of the original owner, and Charles Durst, bought land to the west of the railroad and constructed the building pictured above. This brickyard was operated until 1920.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
That's in this Cleveland book.
And that's what is that kind of a special book that you're reading out of?
Yes, Centerville from 1850 to 1976.
Okay, very
And
good.
Cleveland from 1958 to 1976.
The 1976 celebration.
All right, thank you. Who had some relatives that really were involved in this Cream City brick, I guess. Go right ahead.
I'm Walter Kress, and my dad worked at the brickyard, and they said the bricks used to come out, and
Yeah.
then they cut them with a string.
With a string.
With a string.
Now, do you remember what it looked like? Was a string sort of in between some?
Must have been held by some kind of machine or something.
Okay. And they cut the brick that way.
Cut the brick with the string, and then they'd pile them up, and then they'd fire them. They'd have a fire for a couple of days.
Okay.
Fire the brick.
All right. Very good. Thank you. And again, your dad's name?
Joseph Kress.
Okay. Thank you. Who has some more information to provide? Go right ahead, please.
Richard Wiegand, I'm going to read some articles here now that were referred to in the film
Okay.
from Charlie and Kathy about that first murder of a white man in Manitowoc County. And these are newspaper and history things that have been written
Okay.
about this. Okay.
All right.
The first one comes from Falgey's, or is taken from Falgey's History of Manitowoc County, Volume 1, pages 332, 333, and I'm pretty sure Falgey dates to 1912. We have copies of this at home. Okay, it says here, first murder of a white person at Centerville. Falgey's History of Manitowoc County mentions that it was Centerville that had the sad distinction of being the first town in the county to record a murder among whites. A certain man had become the successful suitor for the hand of a young woman. Two young men, prompted by jealousy, it's a love triangle, I guess, conspired to do away with him. This was in 1851, as the court records show. The three men had been assisting in the erection of a log barn on the premises of Christian Hetzel. On the way home that night, the man who had won the quest for the heart of the woman was waylaid. He was struck in the back of his head with an axe, and the body was concealed under a bridge. The body was found several days later. The two unsuccessful suitors were immediately accused of the crime, were arrested, and lodged in a jail at Manitowoc Rapids. Several months later, they made their escape from this jail and went into hiding in the wilderness that was all about. After 35 years, one of the fugitives returned to the scene of the crime, but only for a few hours' visit. He was not apprehended, grass having grown over the affair.
You ever say who the girl was?
No, let's,
It'll come, it'll come,
okay.
it'll come.
we got the murderers here too. They're not related to anybody in this room. Okay. Okay, this is taken from the Manitowoc, whatever it is, Herald or something?
County Herald.
County Herald, okay, there's no date on this.
Yeah, there is.
Oh yeah, September 13th, 1851. Murder. A cold-blooded and inhuman murder was committed in the town of Centerville in the southern part of this county on the night of the 3rd, something here, of September, I presume. A number of inhabitants, principally German, had assembled on the afternoon of Wednesday of last week to assist raising a building for Edward Eichhoff. In the evening, they all departed for their several homes, but one man named William Gurdon failed to reach his. He never reached it. His wife made an inquiry, but could gain no intelligence of his whereabouts. On Friday morning, a Mrs. Schneider, on her way to the village of Centerville while passing over a small bridge, had her attention attracted by several pieces of human skull lying in the road. Presently, she saw a squirrel running from under the bridge with a piece of flesh in its mouth, and looking under, discovered the body of a man, which was afterwards identified as that of the missing Gherkin. On examination, his skull was found to be completely cleft, as if done in with an axe, and from which the brain was almost entirely gone. I can't read the rest of this because it's, okay. Now I'm gonna.
Can I just add a little bit here?
Richard Wiegand, yeah, this is, I tried reading the article here and then we can't read it anymore, so Charlie's gonna try to get the rest of the story.
Okay.
Okay,
Very
so
good.
I'm gonna go to the next article. This is from the Manitowoc County Herald, September 20th, 1851. The previous one was September 13th. Must be
Okay.
weekly.
All right.
Okay, and there was a short notice in here said the examination of Egloff and Eichhoff, charged with the murder of Gherkin, is postponed until Monday next for want of material witnesses from Milwaukee on the part of the defendants. So we see that Egloff and Eichhoff are charged with the murder here.
Do they sound like German or Russian? As far
German. I
as
don't
German?
think we had any Russians around here.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, way back when.
All right.
Okay, then the next one is, this is a little out of order here. There's September 25th, 1851, Manitowoc County Herald,
Okay. Very good.
okay? And it says here, the Centerville murder case. GEO dot must be George Egloff and Gustav Eichhoff, charged with the murder of Wilhelm Gherkin, were examined before Justice Fellows on Monday. A large amount of evidence was taken which resulted in their committal. The case will come before the grand jury this term. We were present at the examination and took notes of the testimony, but we do not feel that we would be justified in giving publicity to any facts or circumstances that would tend to predispose the public mind in favor of their guilt or innocence. When they come to be tried by a jury, we shall give a full report. How responsible of the press.
Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that great?
They don't do that anymore.
Very good.
Okay, okay, here's, Manitowoc County Herald, October 2nd, 1851.
Okay.
The circuit court adjourned on Monday. The grand jury found a bill of indictment against George Eghoff and Gustav Eichhoff for the murder of Wilhelm Gherkin. As the parties were not ready for trial, Judge Howe, H-O-W-E, appointed a special term for November when this case will be tried. A horrible and fiendish murder has been committed, but how far the accused are implicated is yet to be determined. Circumstances strongly point to them as the perpetrators, but a legal investigation may develop facts substantiating their innocence at which none would rejoice more than ourselves.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. With the saga, story of the murder in Centerville. Manitowoc County Herald, November 27th, 1851. And this is what I'm reading here, so it's a little hard to
Okay.
get through it, but
This is off a newspaper article.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
special term of court. The special term of the circuit court appointed by Judge Howe commenced on Wednesday. The two young men, George Egloff and Gustav Eichhoff, actually it says Gustavus here, Eichhoff, confined in the county jail on arrest for the murder of Wilhelm Gherkin, will probably be tried. We have heretofore refrained from any remarks as to the probable guilt or innocence of the prisoners. This we shall continue to do, giving only such facts as may be developed in the progress of the trial. That a fearful murder was committed is too surely evidenced in the mangled remains of poor Gherkin. If he had been destroyed by wild beasts, he would not have been the victim of a more cruel and inhuman death. The prosecution will be conducted by District Attorney Colby and J. It's hard to tell here, J. Mick something, M. Shafter Esquire, and the defense by James L. Lyle Esquire and Judge Ricker.
Okay.
One more.
Okay.
Manitowoc County Herald, December 4th, 1851. Prisoners escaped. George Egloff and Gustav Eichhoff were confined in the county jail for murder of William Gherkin, escaped from their confinement on the night of the 28th. Must be November. Handbills were immediately posted describing them, but up to the present time, nothing has transpired to lead to their discovery. Egloff is about 5 feet 7.5 inches high, has dark brown hair and gray eyes. Had on corduroy corduroy pantaloons, and a striped hickory shirt. Eichhoff is about 6 feet high, has black hair, gray eyes, and Roman nose. And had on something, pantaloons also, and a dark brown coat. Can't read the other word. $100 is offered by the sheriff for their arrest and delivery. They effected their escape by displacing one of the timbers by means of boring, which they afterward carefully replaced. The fact of their having made use of premeditated means to effect their liberty would seem almost convincing proof of their guilt. Yet, under the circumstances, such a judgment appears to be more severe than is warrantable. When it is remembered that they waited patiently for months in view of their anticipated trial, and that they made every preparation for it in securing the attendance of eminent counsel and important witnesses, and that they waited until it was certain that no special term would be held, and without intervention of extraordinary means, a long and dreary winter's confinement was before them. When all these things are taken into account, considerate persons will be more disposed to suspend a hasty and severe judgment and entertain the hope, at least, that they may be guiltless. Their escape will justly be looked upon as a reproach to the county, because if the jail was insecure, as was evidently the case, a sufficient guard should have provided to ensure their safe custody. Okay,
Thank you. Go right ahead, please. The information that you're going to read is from where, please?
Okay, Richard Wiegand. I have an article here that Kathy got from Carrie Trask, who's a professor of history at the University of Wisconsin Manitowoc Center. And this is the title.
Okay.
And it's about a man named Schulte who lived in the area and had something to do with the case, not with the case, but
Okay.
we'll get to that. Okay, I'm going to read from, this was printed in 1988. Schulte's name does not appear in the Centerville census of 1850. A family account transmitted from one of his daughters indicates that he left the area for St. Louis, although he retained at least the first property he had bought. Gherkin, who had won the hand of Katharina Westerfeld, Katharina Westerfeld remained in Centerville. This is the Gherkin that was murdered. Two daughters were born to their union. The first one was fatally burned as she was approaching her second birthday. Gherkin was murdered on September 3rd, 1851, when he was struck and mutilated with an axe, reportedly his own, on his return from a barn raising. Two suspects, one of whom had fled as far as Milwaukee before his arrest, were indicted by a grand jury before the circuit court at Manitowoc on September 25. They entered pleas of not guilty, and when opening of the court was delayed, escaped from jail on November 28th. Neither the official records, which give explicit details of the murder, nor the accounts in the Manitowoc and Milwaukee newspapers of the time suggest any motives for the crime, although the latter mentioned that liquor was involved. It may have been noteworthy that the victim and the Centerville settlement were identified in the press as German. Gherkin and his infant daughter are buried in the Catholic cemetery at St. Wendel. After Gherkin's murder, according to the family account, his widow wrote to Schulte. No, it's Theodore Schulte.
What's the first name one more time?
Theodore Schulte.
Theodore Schulte.
Yeah, 1823 to 1871, photographed in Sheboygan. His widow wrote to Schulte asking him to assume responsibility for the property because she was planning to return to Germany. The widow was Katharina Westerfeld, that's what I read, okay. Instead, she and Schulte were married at Holy Name Church in Sheboygan on October 25th. It doesn't say. It doesn't say here. It's maybe a little bit, it may be said earlier than that. I wouldn't assume that she'd get married in the same year. Okay, 3 sons and 3 daughters were born to their marriage between 1853 and 1865. So it was about 1853. Okay.
We have a gentleman here who is going to verify a few things. Go right ahead, please.
Okay, as we were going through the tape and the discussion before that, I was going through my cemetery list here, and I was getting these different people in here and getting the dates. So, Schulte. Theodore Schulte is the one who married Katharina Westerfeld, who was the widow of the murder of, what's his name, the
Gherkin?
Gherkin, okay. And Schulte was 1823 to 1871, which I think was in the article.
Okay.
Katharina, which is spelled with a C here, was 1823 to 1894.
All right.
Okay. Then the next one I have, and they're in St. Wendel. No, they're in St. George. They're in St. George in Hika.
Okay.
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 Jane Rain is 1838 to 1866, according to this cemetery record. And these were
Okay.
taken about 20, 30 years ago. when
All right.
They were a little easier to read, maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah.
she would have been 28.
Okay.
So that puts her in some perspective. Stoltenberg. Adolf Stoltenberg was born in 1863. So in 1943, he would have been 80. So
Okay,
that's when that picture
helps.
was with the roses there, okay? And he lived another 3 years. He died in 1946.
All right.
Okay, then I've got Gherkin, the fellow who was murdered, and I think we covered this already, 1827 to 1851. So he would have been 24, give or take. And Sophia, his daughter, was 1848 to 1850. In fact, she was 1 day and 2 years, or 2 years and 1 day. When
Okay.
she died in the fire of burns. There's no other Gherkin listed there. There was another daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently she grew up and moved away or got married and changed her name. So I don't know who the other Iron Cross is for. There's no name on it, and I don't have a clue from this.
It wasn't his wife, because
Yeah.
I checked with Rob Spalding that it wasn't his wife.
Yeah, no, she's buried with the other husband, Schulte, in St. George down in Hika.
Okay. Very good.
So those are the dates that I was pulling out of here as we were
Okay.
moving along.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Luke is also going to talk about things that were said on the videotape and give us more information. Go right ahead, please.
I'm Willard Matthias. As far as the Lutzy Cheese House, as a young boy, I remember going over there. But we had our dairy in Cleveland, and we'd have to haul our cheese over to the Lutzy Cheese House.
Okay.
We kept it at the dairy for 2 days at the most, and then we'd haul it over there.
Okay.
Due to the fact that none of the factories had cooler space.
All right.
So that they had the cooler space.
Okay.
And they picked up, or didn't pick up, at one time, everyone hauled their cheese as far as School Hill came down, and surrounding areas, just all the cheese factories would bring their cheese there.
Okay.
And they bought it from us. And then
So in other words, you just didn't bring it there to store. You actually sold it to them?
sold it to the Lutzy Cheese House.
All right.
And later on, the Lutzy Cheese House was bought out by the Pauli Cheese House from Manitowoc.
Okay.
And then they had a truck going out picking up the cheese.
All right.
And that was Oscar Lutzy picked up the cheese from all the surrounding factories.
All right.
And then before the war, it was Oscar Lutzy and Ed Lutzy were the two people that run it, brothers.
All right.
And then they hired Vernon Kress to help them.
Oh.
And I remember, this was just right after the war, the government only wanted cheddar cheese. That was the big 70 pounders.
Mm-hmm.
And so then all the cheesemakers made these 70-pound hunks of cheese, and we'd haul them over to or they'd pick them up. And that was a hard job to lug all them boxes of cheese over to, Mr. Lutzy worked hard every day. And then he'd bring them over there and he would dip them, grate them. Sometimes, you know how it was years ago, some of the farmers didn't take care of the milk and you had a poor grade of cheese that day. And then it had to be graded. If you had a good grade, you made 2 or 3 cents a pound more. Otherwise, you got less. But happened during the summer times where your cheese wasn't as good because of you got a poor grade of milk in. But they'd wax them and they'd ship them out by rail, the cheese.
What shapes were brought, or what, was it be a large disc or a large round billet type thing, or what?
Well, it would be.
Can you give us a little pictorial here of, with your hands and arms?
Well, yeah, it's like here.
If you need Charlie on top of the table, you go right ahead.
You'd go about this big, and we're
Okay,
about that high.
Okay, size-wise, can you just give me a rough dimension, diameter?
About 15 inches diameter on top and about 15
Inches high. Okay. Okay, that was 70 pounds.
That was about 70 to,
Wow.
68, 70 pounds.
And no handles either, huh?
No handles.
Did they put these in boxes of any kind, or
Yeah,
just?
Then we have to buy, the cheese boxes would come either from Millersville Box Company or
Okay.
Howard's Grove Box Companies.
Oh,
2 different box companies.
okay.
And they would come with big trucks. And we'd have to store all our boxes. This big truck was very big. And they'd store the boxes upstairs in our dairy
Oh,
for our use.
okay.
And they'd one guy down below and one guy up by the window, and they'd throw each box up to the 2nd floor at the dairy.
Oh,
What a job.
was that box a round construction
They were
also?
round.
They were round. No kidding. Okay.
So with one guy, we'd pile them about 8 high
Oh, man.
upstairs in the dairy.
Holy cow.
And as far as, what else? Cut it off.
Okay. Break here, and Willard would like to continue. Go right ahead.
Then when the Lutzy Cheese Company went out, that building stood empty for a few years.
Okay.
And then the Matthias Dairy bought it. And we used it for storage.
All right.
And we'd buy our bottles by the semi-load or the train load, or our sugar came in for our chocolate milk and things.
Okay.
We'd go together with Cleveland Co-op, and we'd buy a carload of sugar, salt, and we'd split it with them.
Okay.
Because, we used an awful lot of sugar and a lot of salt in the dairy.
Okay. Sure.
That's what we mainly used it for. And then when we closed our dairy, we went with Borden's, and we used that for our storage place because they could back right in the back end there
Okay.
and unload the milk, and then we closed and everything in 1959.
Okay. Was there an elevator in there at all? The freight elevator? Nothing?
No elevator. When they loaded this cheese, these guys, Bernie and Mr. Lutzy, they'd have 4 of these cheddar boxes on a platform, and they'd walk from the cooler to the front into the train. And can you imagine how many loads they hauled? And they done that in between dipping cheese and picking the cheese up. They'd make it maybe take them 2 days to load this train with all this cheese. But I said, them boys worked awful hard
Oh, man.
loading this boxcar with cheese. And I
Wow.
was a young boy then yet, and I could just watch them. That was enough already.
Now, they had a ramp or something going to the train area, or was there spur of tracks by the area?
The tracks went right next to the building.
Okay.
There was a ramp that went up like that into the boxcar.
Okay.
And they had to go like heck with the two-wheel
With a
cart,
dolly, yeah.
with the dolly, and push it up that ramp and into the.
Oh, no. Nothing but heavy labor, huh?
That's why Bernie Kress always says he had all his muscles.
Very good. Nice story, sir. Very good. Thank you.
That was, the two that were in that cheese factory were my uncles,
Okay.
Uncle Eddie and Uncle Oscar. And I remember they had a little garden in the back of the building to the west, and they had chickens in back there, and raspberries.
Oh, my gosh. Wonderful.
Yep.
Very good.
Nobody wasted a thing in those days.
Every
even the
piece of
land.
ground. Very good, Marie. Thank you. Has something to say. Go right ahead.
I'm Alice Mathias, and I would like to clear myself. I think Willie should explain his black eye.
Okay. We dropped the gavel on you already, you know that? Okay, we'll hear the story from Willard.
It was just a freak little accident.
Freak little
Trying to
accident.
pick up a shovel off the hook, and it fell and it hit me right
Oh,
below the glass.
oh, golly.
Yeah,
That's
what
close.
you say now.
That was that's a close one.
That's over a week old.
And
It's like 10
then
days
when I
old.
come in the house, there you see me coming in with the blood running down his cheek, but it was dry already, so what did I do again? But if you don't do nothing, you never, don't get hurt, right?
That's right.
I knew that other woman would get you.
Thank you. Future date set up for us?
Our next meeting will be June 14th. Should we try for a walk again?
Is that the second one?
That's the second Monday in June.
Monday.
Yeah.
Should we try it? That'd be
Sure,
fine.
we'll try for a walk again, and if it's better weather, maybe.
Second, that's the 14th?
Yep, that's Flag Day, correct.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
And I want to thank everybody for coming and all the input. It's really wonderful, and Jerry for bringing the film clip along tonight, so thank you a lot, Jerry. And
And
If we do like today, if we can't go out, then we come here early,
Right.
5 o'clock.
yeah, then we'll come early. I'll have to reschedule the room for 5 o'clock. It's scheduled for 7 for the whole year. Yeah, next time it'll be Sheboygan County room, I think. So,
Okay, very good. And like to sign off with your name again, please?
Yeah, Richard Wiegand?
Thank you. And who do we have here?
Kathy Sixel.
Thank you. Here, who helped out a lot this evening. Go right ahead.
Walter Kress.
Thank you, Walter.
Florence Chris.
Thank you, Florence.
Dolores Kress.
Thank you, Dolores.
Charlie Bauer.
Charlie, thank you.
Dorothy Anderson.
Dorothy, glad to have you back.
Oh, thank you.
And who do we have here, please?
Edith, let's see.
Thank you, Edith.
Willard Mathias.
Willard Mathias. Thank you, Willard.
Alice Mathias.
Thank you, Alice.
Marie Pippard from
Mar-
Peyton Place, Cleveland.
Marie, you started it all for this evening's session, I'll tell you. Thank you. And who do we have here, please?
Irene Dine.
Thank you, Irene. And this is Jerry O'Neill, the videographer, and I want to also convey my thank yous to all you folks. You've done a good job again, as always. Thank you.
Next, on Thursday, we're going to have a walk of the Ron Schaefer property and of the Lakeshore. We're looking for a pier. There's another pier right off of X. So anybody's welcome to join us. It starts at 3 o'clock at his house.
Where is this?
Ron Schaefer, the doctor, he used to be a dentist. He's got a long driveway past Bob Levin's house, way back into the woods.
Point Creek.
Point Creek?
It's outside of Point Creek. We were there
When
once.
is it?